October Halloween picks, favorite Stephen King films. We've done creature features, classic slasher, but we haven't done Stephen King and so many films to choose
Yeah.
from.
And actually, I wore my shirt tonight just for
Love
that.
that. It's so cool. That's so great.
It says based on the novel by Stephen King.
Based on the novel by
Then you
Stephen
know it's
King.
a good movie.
Well, of course. And sometimes they loosely they can't legally say it, but they're like inspired by the original novel of Stephen King for like Children of the Corn 8, and you're like,
Mm,
no.
yeah.
But yeah, so I'm really excited for this list. These are our favorite Stephen King films in no particular order. At least mine aren't in any particular order.
Yeah, I think we did
Um,
our top nine
we did our top nine,
just to
Ru-
be
just to keep it.
arbitrary. Yeah.
Yeah. But what is your first one? This is great.
So first one was actually the first one, and it was part of your Halloween mixtape, the original Carrie.
Oh,
So
yes.
Stephen King's first novel, Stephen King's first movie, and I would say arguably the best, or obviously one of the best. So
Probably.
yeah. So between the cast and the soundtrack and right place, right time, it was just I don't know.
Perfect.
Everything still works for me for that movie. So, and it continues to work for me. I know I've talked many times before that for the 40th anniversary of Carrie, the screening, I still talk about
Yes.
that. As I think it was the Los Angeles Theater, they had a special screening. Then afterward, there was a panel with Piper Laurie and Nancy Allen and PJ Souls
Oh yeah.
and a couple other of the Carrie actors were there. But during the screening, when Carrie takes over the prom and she turn off the lights and when she makes all the lights red, they had special lights rigged up in the Los Angeles theater that also bathed the entire audience in red, and it was just chilling
It's
to
amazing.
say the least.
I
So
can't imagine.
probably one of my best experiences. It's interesting that this is, it's I have friends they don't even like to think about Carrie because they feel like it's such a horrifying movie that I was like, but
Oh, it is. Yeah.
it's a tale. I don't know. I guess I'd never quite seen it that way as like such horrifying. When I was younger, I was horrified by the image,
Oh yeah.
because I saw her, bathed in blood. I was like, what
Oh
is this
gosh.
horrible movie?
It's
But it's
it's
still,
haunting.
yeah,
It's also I love the fact that it's Stephen King's first novel. You know, it's not you look at a lot of authors and there's always, for the most part, there's a few okay ones, and it's
yeah.
like they hit this landmark one. But Stephen King right out of the gate did Carrie. And to your credit, I mean to your point, the image of the pig's blood is like so haunting, and the book, I mean, some of the stuff they left out of the movie
hmm
was it's yeah, the movie's just so great. And did she win a Oscar for that, or she was
Her and Piper Laurie were both nominated for
okay?
Oscars, and neither one. But to think that Stephen King I garnered two Best Acting Oscars is just
Oh yeah,
astounding.
it's
Uh,
amazing.
too that kind of shows the effect that it had. And as you know, they've remade it twice. They had made it a semi-sequel, and then they had a TV remake, and then a movie remake, and now it's gonna be remade again. Apparently, Mike
Oh really?
Flanagan is making it into a series, and so
Hmm.
I don't know how I feel. Like I don't know what they're gonna bring. You know?
Yeah, I don't know what they could bring for a series except
Yeah,
for, again, I haven't heard of this, but maybe milking it. I don't know.
I think that might be it.
Yeah,
So anyway,
but
but
Carrie's great.
that's the first one that comes to my mind. So.
And I have no surprise, surprise, The Stand,
Oh, it wouldn't be a
1994.
podcast without talking about The
We
Stand.
have to bring up The Stand. So The Stand, I think, is Stephen King's best novel in terms of it's just an epic. The characters intertwine, not seamlessly, but he kind of rectifies that. And yeah, it's Lord of the Rings in America. It's a great novel, and the we're talking about film, so this is not necessarily a film, but a mini series. The '94 still holds up. Still a lot of fun.
I can't believe you didn't go see it on the big screen.
I know, what a jackass.
I know. You
Jackass. I
say
mean, no.
you say you're a fan,
Oh,
but
what a
I don't
phony.
I don't know.
This
But
you just bring all of your friends.
now, how often do you watch this? At least yearly.
It's yearly. It's
Okay.
annual.
Okay.
Yeah. Last year it was like twice, but
Yeah.
you got to respect it. You got to let it breathe. like a fine wine.
Yeah.
And
All
we
right.
both have for our next one, Robert, is
The Dead
oh,
Zone,
it's
the film,
great. The film. It's great.
not the series, but
No, no, of course. Um, yeah, the Dead Zone's great. It's hauntingly uh, foreshadowing of
the
things.
ice is
The
going to break.
Christopher Walken. It's oh gosh,
He's a little bit like a Jack Knight. He's like he's already off kilter. You're like, whew,
yeah,
this guy was teaching kids. What? Um,
right.
and is still teaching it? No. So it's not your, I guess, typical Stephen King film. I mean, I should say typical, but it's not this. It's not a monster gory type thing. So,
No, no, you're right.
but it still worked. A great soundtrack, great opening
Oh
credits.
yeah,
I remember with the pieces, different geometric shapes show up until it finally kind of spells out the dead zone. And I think Deborah Hill was one of the producers as well for
yeah,
this.
and
So
directed by Cronenberg. I mean, it
yes,
was yeah, it was produced by Deborah Hill.
but
She was one
great.
of the producers.
Typical, obviously, kind of that overcast north eastern look. Um, and then they were just better at characterization that you didn't need to see some of these kind of side characters too much, but you knew them.
Yeah, right.
And you didn't need to kind of have whole kind of side stories, but you just kind of knew how you were. Tom Skerritt,
Yeah, great Tom
can't go wrong
Skerritt.
there. Yeah. And then Martin Sheen, which we're like, oh, how horrible could it be? It's like, oh, I'll take him any day over certain
Right,
other candidates.
right, exactly. Oh my gosh, you're
What's he
so
say? The
right.
eagles are fly. I can't remember what his line
Yeah,
is
yeah.
when the he's doing the nuclear warheads, but
Right, right. Yeah, or in the foreshadowing
yeah,
sequence. Yeah, with the suitcase or the
yeah. So
briefcase.
this is on my list to do the locations for this. I think
Ooh,
up in Toronto and kind of the Niagara Falls area, but
nice.
I would like to because I know the gazebo's there and some of the different places. So other people have been. So I like this is definitely on my to-do list
Oh,
to
that would be
do
so
some
cool.
proper locations.
Proper locations, and it's the setting of Castle Rock, which
Yes.
is always classic.
Was this the
And
first Castle Rock? It might have been. I don't know. We
I
know we
think
have
it
all the
would have.
facts here. It's
No, it
probably
would
it's
have
or
been because
if
the
not
one
one of the first. Yeah,
before this would have been The Shining, I think, because
mhm.
this was 83.
But Shiny didn't take place in
Cujo.
Castle Rock. But yeah, maybe Cujo. I don't know. We have all the facts here,
We have all
people.
the facts here. We know what we're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
And we also have for the next one, we both put Christine, which we've mentioned
Mhm.
earlier.
John Carpenter. Also taking place in 1978, the same year as Halloween, even though it was made in 82 or 83, I
Oh
think.
yeah, right.
But shot on some of the same Halloween streets,
I
just down
do.
the street in
That's
South
right.
Pasadena.
I do like when he chokes his dad. He's like, "Oh, leave him alone," and I'm like, "No, sir, go get him." He just walks
Ah,
away and he's staring. But it's scary. It's haunting, and I do like it. Not included in the book was I don't believe it was in the book. Was the opening scene where it's the car was born in the
hmm.
factory,
Oh yeah.
and they show that it was already evil, or how it became evil. It's a great movie.
Yeah, which is a little different. In the book, it was more a ghost story of
The previous owner.
yeah, was kind of part of it. And they kind of it probably worked better to kind of have this just not to say possessed car, but inherently evil cars and the kind of bad always bad stuff happens. But it probably works better for the actual film. But well, yeah, great cast. Uh Arnie Cunningham has a great character arc, and because he does, you forget. I mean, he does start out as Keith Gordon. Obviously, he's super nerd and just typical with the glasses kind of taped together, and then he does kind of become an attractive young male with
Yeah,
that. Like to do typical Hollywood. Take off your glasses and
always.
do your hair, and you're the stud
And
now.
you're the
So,
stud now.
um, Alexander Paul, she had to kind of grow on me because she's a little too wispy.
Yeah.
I do like her, and so I've met her a couple of times. So
Oh,
I remember
cool.
one of the times I went to Sean Clark's house. I rang the doorbell, and she's like, "Hello," and so she's the one to open the door.
No
And
way.
yeah, it's like first, I was like, do I have the right house? But
Oh,
my
it's
friend
so
is like,
cool.
my friend's like, is that Alexander Paul? Yeah,
That is so cool.
yeah. But yeah, so it's a good movie. It still holds up.
Yeah.
You if it's on, you kind of get suckered into kind of watching it. all the way through. And obviously, there's a lot of bullies that Stephen King deals with in his early novels, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big subject in there. Soundtrack is really good.
Mm.
At least the score they selected in the film. Um, I feel like the cinematography is great, and like you said, the story arc of Arnie is yeah, you believe it. The strong the more that's taken away from him, the more that's given to Christine, and it kind of pivots at the right time. And yeah, and
Yep.
I love the actors in there, especially is it Richard Prosky plays
Oh,
the
the
dealer?
owner of the warehouse.
Yeah, the owner,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Which
Um,
he has the right amount of salt, and he's because in the book he was like a smuggler, like a drug dealer kind of
yeah.
shady guy that he used it for smuggling operations.
Yeah.
And in here, they kind of allude to that, but not over the top, which works very well. It would have been too much going on. So I think, yeah, he
Yeah.
Cronenberg Carpenter reined it all in, and it's a great film.
I love Mrs. Cunningham too. That's noise pollution, you know. You might as well be throwing toxic waste up into the air.
Thanks for the milk. She was a hard ass on him too.
Yeah. It's the
You know,
80s. That's what parents were like,
you're
like
not keeping that car here.
not in this driveway. Like, all right,
Okay.
where
And is it Richard Blossoms?
I don't know.
The guy that sold him the car. He's in
Oh, gotcha.
a
You're a
bunch of stuff.
shitter. You're-
Right?
I still use it like he's a shitter.
He's a
I
shitter.
don't even know what that means. Like it's just like,
He's a shitter.
and he had that strange contraption, kind of. Uh, uh,
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know. I think it was something. Feels like I'm like it's keeping his body together is what it would look like. But
Yeah, what was he doing?
yeah, and remember last time I looked at it, like there's no way that car is even drivable. Let alone I can't believe it started. When you first see it, I mean it
Oh
is.
no, that
Yeah.
engine wouldn't turn. It was
Um.
amazing.
Um. And then how old is it? So it's a Plymouth Fury,
Yeah.
and so was it 57 or
It was
58?
20 supposed to be 20 years
Okay.
old.
Which now, like literally now, we'd be looking at a 2004 Corolla.
No.
Like you'd be like this Corolla.
That I thought about that too,
Yeah,
because in 78, those 50 cars weren't the classics they are today.
yeah,
So, I mean, they look nice, but it's a very different thing.
yeah. Now we go back 20 years. I'm like the cars just say essentially probably can look the same, but that's what I was picturing. It's like this haunted 2004
I need it.
Honda Civic.
I need it. It's a piece of
It's
crap,
that
Arnie.
car, Arnie.
It's that car. And he's drinking the beer. He's like, "My car is your car. Drink a beer." And I'm like, "Okay."
It was the 70s.
It was the 70s.
Oh,
Okay. So what do we have next?
we both
We
have the same for the next one as well.
we have The Shining. It
Little
needs to
known
be
film called The Shining.
corrected, sir.
You may have, yeah, this is your lines of all your favorite lines in this
Corrected.
movie.
No, but The Shining's great. And I did recently watch Room, what is it, 237?
Hmm.
Um, which a lot of that stuff we've spoken of, but it's very interesting to see the all the stuff that went into The Shining. I mean, all the subliminal stuff, all of the cues, all of the symbolism, the conspiracy theories, all the kooks. It's crazy. It's a fantastic movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of that you're like, well, I don't know how much, well, if anybody was going to throw all that stuff into it, it would be Kubrick. But I'm like, I don't know how much was that intentional the entire time.
Yes. I think there were a
Or,
few, but some of the Native American stuff I buy, and then there's some other Native American stuff where I'm like, I don't think that was intentional. That's just
yeah,
where it was.
just happened to be like, happened to be in the background. It's like,
Right.
uh, but yeah, yeah, so I've seen it many times. And then, probably the most memorable times, obviously, one, I saw it at the hotel where they used the exteriors up in Oregon.
It's
So
so
that was a
great.
special time. But then I remember seeing it at Alamo with a full audience and stuff like that, and it was a
Oh.
different experience. And there's laughs and humor that is not there when you normally watch it, especially with like Ann Jackson as the doctor.
That's so funny.
But yeah, I was just like, yeah, I just literally just everybody bust out laughing at different lines and stuff like that. Not making
Right.
fun of it, but it was anyway.
Yeah,
But yeah,
when
so
when you're in a different with an audience, films they hit differently, and there's
yeah,
things that you pick up nuances where you're like, oh, that's funny, and it's cool.
yeah.
But
I can't imagine 1980 audiences laughing though.
no, I don't
But,
think so. I don't think so. But that's funny. That's great. You got to see that
yeah, but this is
theatrically.
another one that people talk about. It's how horrifying, and I never really saw too much of a horror movie because there wasn't too much
Me too.
horror there, but people still call it that. But
Yeah. Yeah. It's not to me, it's not a scary movie, but
it's
it's a
like
great
it's a
thriller.
little family drama.
Yeah, there's a some quarrels before
Yeah.
dinner. Little family drama. And next we have some television shows.
Hmm.
Stephen King, of course. I have Castle Rock.
Yes. Only lasted 2 seasons
I know,
so
I'm so
far,
disappointed in
but
that.
it it was solid.
It was. And they were doing the anthology thing, and there was just the right amount. There was a lot of Easter eggs from King, and if you're a fan of his work, it was like the perfect show. And it felt like Southland when they canceled it. You're like, what happened? Like,
I
give us some
know.
closure.
And
I
it
mean,
was
yeah,
yeah, Sissy Spacek come back, like come
right.
on.
Yeah.
Uh
They
and
went back to Shawshank in it. Like
yeah,
Tim Robbins was back in Shawshank. Like, come on.
there's so much they could keep kind of harvesting. So I'm not quite sure why it did not last. I don't know if it was too expensive or it didn't have the
Yeah.
viewers or made the money, but yeah, so and then
Didn't
season
create the
two, like
buzz.
yeah. And I was a little because I know when season two with and bringing back Andy Wilkes or bringing back, but I was like, well, who's going to beat Kathy Bates as who you can't beat that, you know.
No.
But Lizzie Kaplan, I thought she did a credible job, and it was kind of a little bit almost like Nurse Ratched. You're like, well, let's see what happened before we got to see the Louise Fletcher version, or
Right.
yeah.
Right. Which was great. You dirty bird. He's a dirty bird. It was great. Yeah. She did a good job with that too.
Oh, and I remember because I was tickled. So Nick is listening, but that Annie Wilkes they kept singing the theme to
Yeah.
Working Girl.
Let the river
Yeah, so it's just like
run.
I love that song.
Yeah. It was a
And
great
I
song.
was glad
Patsy
that
Cline, right?
it was made part of that series or part of her character. So
It's Carly Simon.
Card Time, yes.
That is a great song. It really is. And you have Mr. Mercedes.
Yes, have you watched this?
I have not.
I highly recommend. It's 3 seasons. It's
Okay.
kind of based on the Mr. Mercedes book trilogy. Vague. I think the first one is book is pretty clear, and then they kind of do some variations. So, I've done a lot of locations for this, but have yet to post it. But I've
Oh,
done pretty extensive locations. I just need to actually put it on paper and
it's
or
under
put it on a
construction.
page. Yeah, still under construction, but highly recommend this TV series if you have not seen it.
Oh, cool.
Highly,
Yeah.
highly recommend. Dare I say better than Castle Rock? I'm just saying.
I trust your
Okay.
judgment.
Yeah.
So if you say it is, I am there.
I'm just saying. Take a look. And it's not well known. So it's definitely worth a look. So
Okay. Mr. Mercedes. Yeah, I know you've spoken of it
yeah.
before and you
Yeah.
raved about it.
I love it.
Let the river run.
So what do you have next?
I have The Mist, which we spoke of earlier. Love the novella, slightly more than the film, but I do like the film a lot. And Darabont brings some of the classic actors that he's worked with before. The setting is great. It's simple, one location, and very H.P. Lovecraftian,
Hmm.
and it's good. It's a good movie. Um, I enjoy it, and I know it is polarizing. People I've gotten into discussions with people that are like, "How do you like that? It's crap." And
Well,
but yeah, it's not for everybody. It's not for
yeah,
everybody.
no. I she continues to grow on me is Marcia Gay Harden.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Mrs.
her.
Carmody. Yeah, which and yeah, I don't know. Part of it's like, well, maybe we should listen to her. Not that I believe, but I was just like,
Yeah, but it's a good microcosm or
yeah.
analogy of life. When the machines break down, you're going to listen to any kind of kook that tells you what you want to hear.
Ah, don't go to the store.
Don't go to the
And it's,
store.
that's what just do. Or pick your store better when you do. I don't know.
Right.
What's the theme or moral here of the story? But
What's the moral here of the story?
uh,
And
so
that,
go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I chose Creepshow as my next one. The
Nice.
original Creepshow.
Love
I
it.
remember renting this on Laserdisc or Disco Vision disc, and
What's
Uh,
Disco Vision
well,
disc?
this is where you weren't able to touch the actual laser disc. It was in a plastic case, and you put the whole plastic case in, and it
Oh,
took the disc and it
right.
spit it back out, and then you turn it over and stuff like that. So I remember renting Creepshow.
I remember
Yeah.
those. That's
So
cool.
great soundtrack, great stories, and they had some. Creepshow 2 was kind of a direct follow-up, but I remember
Yeah.
in
Yes, indeed,
I remember
Henry. Yes, indeed.
Fangoria magazine did print my letter about Creepshow 2, about how disappointed I was in Creepshow 2.
Oh, you didn't like the wood shop Indian or
Well,
whatever?
I also it's like they let because one of my favorite moments of Creepshow is flipping the comic pages
Yes.
and they didn't do that in
No.
Creepshow 2. I was like that was kind of part of the appeal,
Yeah,
But
I do like Creepshow too, but it doesn't hold a candle
yeah.
to Creepshow. Creepshow's great, and it's still, I mean, the characters are great. And what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite segment in Creepshow?
Well, probably the Adrienne Barbeau.
She's the best.
You
The
can call
crate.
her Billy. Yeah, so
Yes, indeed, Henry.
you can call
Yes,
her
indeed.
Billy.
That is my favorite too. And I saw that incidentally as like a 10-year-old or something. It was on TV one day, and that scared the shit out of me
That
seeing that beast. Because it was ape-like in the film.
yeah,
Like it was kind of like a,
Fluffy, I think they called it on the set. Yeah.
a fluffy, yeah. And the
Yeah.
fact that it was just it's still scary to this day. And the fact that the if you remember it's from like the 1830s expedition.
Yeah.
This thing's alive for 100 years. And oh, I love Creepshow. I'm gonna watch that before Halloween.
It's
It's a
it still
great,
holds up, and it's one of those the each of the episodes gets in and out and in good time, and Leslie Nielsen, and I mean it was kind of before he obviously became uh he was still a serious actor.
yeah.
um Ted
That's a
Danson
scary segment too.
yeah, yeah, so they're all good.
They're great.
E.G. Marshall segment with the bugs and stuff like that is also good.
Oh,
Ed Harris, I think this was Ed Harris's first movie, if I remember correctly.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be
Yeah.
his first major film.
Yep.
Good call. What do you have for your next one, sir?
Let's see, Mr. Creepshow. Oh, Stand By Me.
When the
So
night
I tried to kind of match some of
is
your
coming.
so that way
I saw that.
I was going to do
Thank
Stand
you.
By Me, and then you were going to go to Christine. So I've tried to find some drama to drama, horror to horror. So
Yeah. Great
so
companion
Stand By
pieces.
Me that we've talked about. So obviously I was 16 when this came out, and I remember reading the novella of The Body,
The
obviously
body.
a few years before that. So I knew what was coming, but they made it into obviously a non-typical Stephen King film. But
Yeah. Which he was very happy with, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, he said they captured it pretty well. I mean,
Yeah.
his friends or his kind of viewpoint on kind of what that is. So still holds up, still obviously still holds up for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And most people know it's a Stephen King
Yeah.
movie, but
And it's a perfect end of summer film. And yeah, just so many great scenes in that.
yeah.
I was reading the kids when they were, the water scene. That
Hmm.
was a man-made hole for the movie
Yeah.
that they build it, put the water in, the leeches scene, and they left it there for like 3 days. So then when they're filming it, they were all kind of scared, like we don't really know what got in here in like the 3 days or a week or something. And obviously nothing happened, but I just love that they use practical effects and sets. And yeah, it's did you ever do locations for this? I know a lot of people
I
have.
know it's funny that I get asked about, yeah, I've not been, and that's it. It is a pilgrimage for a lot of people
Yeah.
to do those locations, but I have not. So
It was
uh,
Oregon, right?
yep.
Yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland, one of his first, if not first film,
Yeah.
before he became a Lost Boy. But
Yeah.
Bradley Gregg, I think, is in that. He was at the Hollywood show Friday night. Not that you would know.
Oh
But,
no.
oh,
Oh, another low blow.
I'm just kidding.
I need help. No.
But
Um,
yeah, so it's still obviously it holds up for a lot of people,
yeah, yeah.
despite Richard Dreyfuss being in it. What?
I know.
What?
I know. I know.
We could edit him out.
He'll
We should just do another version. Just like when we edited out
you
Kevin
you
Spacey.
could. You actually
Yeah,
could very
nobody
easily.
nobody would know.
Nobody would know. Just get Dreyfus out of
Yeah.
there. I put the Green Mile for mine,
Hmm.
but I would have to agree with you on the Stand. That's up there. Green Mile I saw theatrically. Yeah, it's powerful. Might be a little too long, and I'm not against long movies, but it feels to me it's an
Hmm.
extra. The last half they kind of drag it out, but yeah. Some of the stuff doesn't really hold up. Obviously, it can be a little tough to watch. Some of the
Yeah.
depictions of Michael Clark Duncan. But overall, I'm a sucker for Stephen King and prison movies. I've always been fascinated by that. So
The whole Stephen King prison genre.
I really
That's
love
its
it.
own podcast.
There's no shortage, but it's fun. The whole Stephen
Which now you
King.
say, I was like, I don't know if he's never been to prison, so I don't know. Maybe he got
No,
that was something got resonated in him to have
something.
some stories.
It's in quite a lot of his books.
Yeah,
I
makes you
mean, I could
wonder.
name like five off the top of my
Yeah,
head. There's a lot, but
even The Stand.
exactly.
Yeah, so
Yeah, Lloyd
hmm,
Hendrick.
all right.
So, yeah, but are you a Green Mile fan? Have you
I
watched
am
it?
not.
No.
Yeah,
The
it's
book
just
or
never
all of it?
all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, never quite hit with me like it did other people. So,
No. Okay.
but good for
Um,
you is what I say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Uh, I have Misery for my next one, which Kathy
Yes.
Bates very deservingly of the Oscar. And oh, I mean, if just thinking of the artwork of the house in the snow,
Hmm.
it just gives you that sinking feeling like something's wrong. And this is an actor's movie too. It's like it could be a play, you know.
Yeah,
It's a one set for the most part, one location, dialogue, heavy dialogue driven, fearful. It's and then they give you the splats and everything when you need them. But
yeah.
it's a great movie.
Well, yeah, and it's a Rob Reiner film, and this is not, you don't put Rob Reiner and
Speaking of Stand By Me,
yeah, Stephen King, like that's just like not
right?
normally the fit that you would think. So I remember seeing this opening night at the theater. I remember being panicking because that when they're driving, he's driving in the snow or whatever. I was like, oh, I hate driving in ice and snow and the car skidding or whatever. So I just remember having I was like, oh,
Oh yeah, it
I
gives you
don't want to relive that. Yeah.
the
So
black ice. Like no
yeah,
thanks.
I was like, and I'd read the book
Yeah,
before because I was really big into Stephen King during those times, so I kind of knew where everything was going. But yeah, James Caan is great. Obviously, Kathy Bates. Is it Richard Farnsworth as the
yeah,
sheriff? Is great, and Frances Sternhagen, who I love. She's a
yes,
bit so, and
all
Lauren
great.
Bacall. Yeah, Lauren Bacall is the
Yeah.
agent or kind of whatever she
Oh, it's
is.
so
Yeah.
good. Now, Misery, was this a big hit in the theater?
It was. I mean, I
Okay.
remember it did decently, and it was one of those accessible movies that uh all ages, not all ages, but like adults went to this one.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
kind of
Right. I do remember my parents going to
accessible.
see it. And the font obviously is Courier New, which is what they use for scripts. So Stephen King was before everybody started doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember reading the book. I don't know if you read the book, but because
no,
I
no,
remember
I'm actually thinking about
yeah,
getting it.
because I remember in the book because then the typewriter simulator stopped working and then they'd have to handwrite in the S's or something like if I remember.
Oh,
And so
really?
it's kind of part of it because he's writing a new Misery book and so sometimes you get those little
Oh,
things and he'd have to write in the R's and the S's and I think they mentioned in the movie that she goes, I'll go fill in all the letters and stuff
oh,
like
that's
that.
so
So yeah,
cool.
but
I'm gonna get that for my
yeah,
next thrift books buy.
yes,
Do you use thrift books?
yes,
It's great.
yep, I do. Especially I try to find those like little random out of print movie books
Yeah,
and so forth. But yeah,
you're a better man.
well,
And finally, Robert, I'll let you say your last one on this
so
list.
I put It Chapter One.
Yes.
So obviously it was made into a miniseries. The book was one of my last Stephen King books because I felt like that was his kind of last hurrah before things kind of changed a
You're
lot with
right. Before
his type
you
of
got your
writing.
Tommy knockers
Yeah.
and things like
And
that.
I was like, it just wasn't the same after that for me.
Good call.
So yeah, and it it chapter two, I mean not to get into that, is just it will never be as good as it chapter one because it's just different with the kids and that's kind of where
Yeah.
Stephen King excels. But between the casting and the look and Pennywise was scary again. Because remember at the time, we were like, how are you going to beat Tim Curry's Penny? Like, and they did a decent job, and
Really good job, I
and
think.
some stuff wasn't over too CGI'd, but it kind of made it kind of scary enough. So I think they did a great job with that. So
Touche. It's
yeah,
such it chapter one is such an enjoyable movie with the scares. There's some moments where they give you things that you're thinking in your head and you're like, they can't do it, but they can, and that just happens. And I think you're absolutely right about it being like his peak of like the classic King,
Hmm.
because it did change after that. And what a perfect book to like enter the next
Yeah.
phase from. Like
And it
it's
was a
great.
huge hit, and now it became obviously
It's a whole thing.
it's the whole thing now. So I didn't have it on my initial list, but before you get to your final one, so I did need to add honorable mention to Doctor Sleep because
Oh, I'm sorry. Good call.
I know I forget about not forget about that, but probably because it's
I
more
do too
recent
sometimes.
compared to some of these others. But I think Flanagan did a fantastic job with that and
I
sewing
agree.
together the old and the new and making things scary
Oh yeah.
again. So
No, yeah, that's what you need. Doctor
yeah.
Sleep. Less is more. And then finally Robert and I both have Salem's Lot, the new movie, and that's the end of the show. Good night, everybody.
Fantastic.
No.
Best vampire film ever
Ever.
put to celluloid.
Ever.
No,
Oh,
that's on neither of our list. Yeah, your final one, I am not shocked at all.
yeah, thank you, Robert. And it's arguably the weakest film on here. It is actually the worst film on here, but it's Children of the Corn,
The 84 version, I assume.
the 84 version, of course. This obviously we both have read Children of the Corn novella. Uh and yeah, it was just I saw, when I was at the age to see this kind of stuff. I remember as a kid,
How old were you?
when I first saw the film, I was
Yeah.
probably like 13, 14,
Okay.
but I read the novel before. And I remember as a kid, my mom would say, when the movie was out, years later, the Children of the Corn was always like a reference, like, oh, so scary, Children of the Corn. And there were jokes, because we lived in the fields. It's like, come in, Matthew, or the Children of the Corn are out there. And I love the movie. I think it's fun. And as you know, I kick off every Halloween season with watching Children of the Corn.
Yeah,
And you say it's fine.
it's fine. I can't believe you've not been out here to go visit the
I
locations.
need
So,
to,
yeah.
because it was filmed in Iowa, right?
Yeah, filmed in Iowa. Takes place in Nebraska, but filmed in Iowa.
Which is still number two, or moved up to number two in our listeners. So thanks, Iowa.
Iowa, yeah.
You're
Oh,
coming in for us.
those children in Iowa are listening.
Oh. But Children of the Corn. And you say it's fine, right?
It is fine. Yeah, it's what it's of
It
its
sucks.
time. Yeah, Malachi.
Outlander.
Yeah, it's one. I was like, if it's on, I was like, oh, I don't know, if I can watch this. I don't get as the same excitement that you do, but I do still love the end. It's like, well, and now boom, the credits start rolling. Like they're not even through their final lines, and the credits are rolling up. I was like, oh, I guess this is it.
They ran out of money,
Yeah.
and it just stops.
Oh,
It's amazing. But yeah, that's our list. Those are October Halloween picks. Favorite Stephen King films. So
yes.